5 hours of wealth mindset to reset your entire week. Most people chase wealth their entire life, but never realize the mind is the real gold mine. This video will show you how unseen forces of thought, gratitude, and energy quietly build fortune while others sleep. If you watch till the end, you won't just think differently, the universe itself will start responding to you differently. Midnight. The city hums beneath a blanket of artificial light. In every apartment window, blue screens flicker like restless fireflies. The world pulses with constant chatter, updates, alerts, the unending scroll of voices competing for attention. Yet somewhere amid this ocean of noise, one light glows softly. Inside that small square of calm sits a man, eyes closed, spine straight, breathing as if the whole world has paused just for him. There comes a moment in every serious thinker's life when the volume of existence becomes unbearable, not because it is louder, but because the soul has matured beyond distraction. Noise no longer excites, it exhausts. What once entertained now feels invasive. It is the mind's quiet announcement that evolution has begun. The man sitting there has reached that turning point, the sacred rebellion against the outer world's tyranny of urgency. He is not running away from life, he is returning to command. For years he has lived like most men, reacting to demands, chasing the next thing, filling silence with stimulation. But somewhere deep inside, an awareness has been growing. That true power does not come from reaction, but from direction. The greatest leaders, the wealthiest creators, the most peaceful souls all have one secret in common. They mastered the stillness before they mastered the storm. Silence, he realizes, is not emptiness. It is concentrated potential, raw power waiting to be directed by the disciplined mind. In this still space, the mental fog that once blurred his vision begins to clear. He senses, perhaps for the first time, that the universe does not shout, it whispers. Its wisdom is encoded in the pauses between thoughts, in the rhythm of breath, in the invisible conversation between mind and soul. He sits a little taller, his breathing slows, and with each exhale, the residue of the day, the tension, the deadlines, the digital chatter drifts away like smoke. The silence expands until it feels almost tangible, a gentle pressure surrounding him, a living presence that demands reverence. In that presence, thought itself begins to change texture. It becomes less scattered, more precise, like a stream focusing into a river. The wealth mindset, he begins to understand, does not start with money. Money is only the echo, the shadow cast by internal order. The true origin of wealth is the ability to sit still with one's own potential, to face the vast space inside without fear or distraction. For within that quiet lies a truth most never discover, that creation itself responds to the frequency of inner calm. In the silence, he remembers a line he once underlined in an old book. Cherish your vision and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. Napoleon Hill's words echo softly through his consciousness. They no longer sound like advice. They sound like instruction. Yet before any blueprint can be drawn, the architect must listen. Silence is the drafting table of the mind. Every idea that will ever matter begins as a whisper in solitude. He recalls the faces of men and women he once admired, leaders, inventors, writers, philosophers, and realizes they all shared the same pattern. Before the masterpiece, there was isolation. Before the breakthrough, there was withdrawal. They stepped away not to escape the world, but to hear it more accurately. Greatness requires the ability to be alone without feeling lonely. The clock ticks softly. He opens his eyes, and for a moment the room seems brighter, though no light has changed. He can feel thought itself slowing into order. He senses that behind every scattered fragment of his old life, every failure, every delay, there was design, waiting for this precise stillness to reveal itself. He had always believed progress required constant motion. Now he understands that motion without clarity is chaos. It is silence that gives movement its aim, just as a pause gives music its rhythm. In the same way, wealth is not born from frantic effort, but from calm certainty. He begins to see that his restlessness was never caused by lack of opportunity, but by lack of focus. The world had not been withholding abundance. His own noise had been repelling it. The law of attraction, the principle of autosuggestion, the entire philosophy of creative power, they all hinge on one prerequisite: a quiet, directed mind. He smiles faintly. For years he chased answers in books, seminars, mentors, and yet the first step was always this: to be still. The noise of the world had convinced him that stillness was laziness, that reflection was delay. Now he knows the opposite is true. Inactivity is not stillness, it is stagnation. Stillness, when mastered, is the highest form of activity, mental precision preparing to shape reality. Outside, a siren wails and fades. The city breathes, unaware that within one room a mind is recalibrating to a higher order. The man breathes deeper now, every inhalation a reminder of life's rhythm, every exhalation a release of unnecessary tension. His heartbeat synchronizes with his intention. He begins to recognize that silence has layers. The first layer is relief, the absence of noise. The second layer is awareness, the noticing of thought. The third, deeper layer is command, the realization that he can choose which thoughts to keep and which to release. That realization is the birth of mastery. When a man learns to guide thought as calmly as he guides breath, he ceases to be a victim of circumstance. He becomes the author of it. Every wealthy life, every legacy, every empire began with such a moment, a man or woman sitting alone, deciding to think consciously instead of habitually. The more he listens inward, the more he feels an almost electric quiet forming in his chest, not emptiness, but presence. He realizes how often he has mistaken stimulation for progress. He used to wake and immediately reach for his phone, flooding his mind with other people's agendas. Now he feels the absurdity of it. How can one command life while beginning the day in submission to noise? He understands at last why the first hour of the week, the first hour of thought, is sacred. It is the hour in which all other hours take their shape. If he starts that hour in stillness, his mind becomes conductor rather than instrument. His tasks, his meetings, his challenges all fall into rhythm with his inner calm. He reflects on the phrase, "the world grows quiet." It no longer feels like a poetic image. It feels literal. The external world can only mirror the internal. As his mind steadies, even the city outside seems to slow. The same cars pass, the same lights flash, yet they feel distant background to a larger, more commanding stillness. This is what ancient thinkers called dominion, not control over others, but mastery over self. Dominion begins when reaction ends. He will no longer live as a man swayed by headlines or moods. He will live as one who generates his own weather. He realizes the wealth mind. It is simply this: the discipline of attention. To control what enters the mind and what is allowed to stay. To guard thought as fiercely as one would guard treasure. Because thought is treasure, the original currency of all success. He recalls another Hill principle, that the subconscious mind acts immediately upon dominant thoughts, translating them into physical reality. The mind is a garden, he thinks, and silence is the soil. Without silence, seeds of intention cannot take root. The noise of fear, doubt, and distraction is like weeds choking the harvest. He feels gratitude rise within him, not for possessions, but for perception. To be aware is to be wealthy, for awareness itself is the foundation of all growth. When a man can observe his own mind without judgment, he has stepped into mastery. He sees now that this simple act of stillness is not withdrawal from ambition. It is the beginning of authentic power. It is how every great enterprise starts not with frantic energy, but with a quiet mind seeing clearly. He pictures his week ahead and feels no anxiety, only curiosity. Each challenge seems smaller now, as though reduced to proportion by perspective. He realizes most of his stress was not caused by work, but by the stories he told himself about it. Silence dissolves those stories and reveals simple facts, tasks to complete, opportunities to pursue, moments to experience. Nothing more. For the first time, he understands that the universe does not reward busyness, it rewards alignment. Alignment begins in silence. When the mind is quiet, the smallest action becomes potent because it flows from clarity. He looks at his own reflection in the dark window. There is calm strength in his eyes, the look of someone who no longer seeks permission to begin. He has learned the rarest art, to be unmoved yet fully alive. He whispers to himself, "This is where it all begins." He knows now that this first hour of his week, this hour of quiet, is not an absence of work. It is the foundation of it. From this silence he will build vision, gratitude, discipline, and faith. But all of it begins here with the simple act of listening. He inhales slowly, the city hums, somewhere a car horn blares, yet within there is perfect calm. The noise no longer invades, it passes through him like wind through open fields. He understands that he cannot control the world's volume, but he can control its access. The world may shout, but he will choose when to listen. That choice is wealth. He smiles not because everything is solved, but because he now holds the key to solving everything. He has found the first principle of mastery. When the world grows quiet, the true self begins to speak. The clock marks the hour. He feels no hurry to move. Action will come, but from now on it will be deliberate, not reactive. The architect has found his table. The blueprint will soon unfold. He closes his eyes once more and lets the silence deepen into a kind of sacred vibration. It is no longer absence, it is awareness. The mind becomes still, and in that stillness a whisper emerges from somewhere deep within. You are ready. He nods softly, as though agreeing with an unseen mentor. The first hour of his week begins here, not in action, but in awakening. He is not behind, he is not late. He stands precisely where he needs to be at the moment where quiet becomes command, where stillness becomes strength, and where the world finally grows quiet enough for destiny to be heard. He opens his eyes to the faint hum of the city. The phone on the table buzzes once, a digital heartbeat calling him back into noise. He does not reach for it. Instead, he stands, walks slowly toward the window, and looks out at the sea of lights glowing against the night. Each window, each blue pulse, each moving car feels alive with one thing: restless minds. The city never truly sleeps, it only pauses between distractions. He realizes that nearly every person he knows begins the day by absorbing the static of others. Messages, headlines, notifications, endless words about what to fear, what to buy, what to chase. The world is full of sound, but empty of signal. Humanity is surrounded by connection, yet starving for clarity. He had lived that way for years, feeding on information, mistaking activity for progress, mistaking noise for meaning. It took exhaustion to teach him that the mind is not a container to be filled, but an instrument to be tuned. The more clutter inside, the weaker the sound that emerges. He breathes deeply, watching condensation form on the glass. The air outside is still, but within his head 1,000 half-finished thoughts swirl. Memories, doubts, random worries, and replayed conversations all blur into an invisible storm. That storm is what Hill called indecision, the mind scattering its power in a dozen directions at once. This, he realizes, is the inner static. It's not a flaw unique to him. It's the condition of modern man. Each of us carries a frequency meant to transmit purpose, but our signal gets buried beneath interference, sold fears, inherited beliefs, and voices that are not our own. The mind becomes like an untuned radio, catching pieces of every station, yet hearing none clearly. He asks himself silently, how can I expect the universe to respond to my intention if even I cannot hear it? The truth lands heavily. You cannot attract wealth through confusion. You cannot build greatness with mixed signals. The universe does not respond to wishful chaos. It responds to definite command. So he makes a decisions, small yet monumental. For 1 week, he will begin each morning with 5 minutes of silence. No phone, no music, no affirmations, just breathing and watching. Not to suppress thought, but to observe it. Not to control it, but to understand it. He sits again, closing his eyes, and almost immediately the static greets him. The mind, untrained, resists stillness. It jumps from idea to memory to imaginary conversation. The untrained mind is terrified of silence because silence reveals its lack of discipline. But he stays. He watches thoughts pass like cars on a distant highway. He doesn't chase them, he doesn't analyze, he simply observes. At first it feels chaotic, like standing in a crowded station as trains roar by. But as the minutes stretch, he notices something profound. Between each train there is space, between each thought there is silence, and in that silence lies awareness itself, the witness behind the noise. This discovery humbles him. The thoughts are not him, they are patterns. The static is not identity, it is residue. Beneath it, there is a field of calm intelligence, steady, vast, timeless. That field has always been there, waiting for him to remember it. He breathes into that calm. With each breath, the static loses authority. The old arguments replaying in his head fade. The imaginary critics quiet. Even his worries about tomorrow soften into something almost peaceful. He realizes that thoughts only control him when he believes them. When observed from stillness, they dissolve like mist under sunlight. He remembers Hill's line, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But belief cannot grow in confusion. To believe deeply, one must think clearly, and clarity begins with silence. The next morning he repeats the ritual, 5 minutes again. The mind rebels again, this time with impatience. "You should check your messages," it whispers. "You're wasting time," but he recognizes the trick. The voice of impatience is just static wearing urgency as disguise. He stays seated. The voice fades. By the third day, something shifts. He notices that his breathing naturally synchronizes with his thoughts. His attention, once fragmented, feels whole. He senses a rhythm to existence, the inhale and exhale of creation itself. When he breathes calmly, life seems to breathe calmly with him. He begins to see the parallel between the radio dial and the mind. When static clouds the signal, you don't break the radio, you adjust the frequency. The same is true of thought. The universe is always broadcasting abundance, inspiration, and guidance. The problem is not the signal, it's the interference. Each anxious thought he releases refines his reception. Each fear he observes without reaction clears another layer. The static becomes teacher instead of enemy. It shows him where his energy leaks, where his beliefs conflict, where old wounds still vibrate beneath awareness. He writes in his journal that night, "Peace is not the absence of thought, but the mastery of attention." That sentence feels like revelation. The more he studies it, the more it becomes law. He remembers how, before this week, he sought inspiration in endless videos and books, trying to absorb motivation from others. Yet all those voices combined only added more static. Now he understands why Hill urged his readers to create a definite purpose, not to limit their thinking, but to filter it. Purpose is the master dial that eliminates unnecessary noise. By the fourth morning, silence greets him like an old friend. The first few minutes still contain random chatter, but it no longer overwhelms him. He has learned to wait for the gap, the sacred pause between thoughts. In that pause, he feels intelligence moving, not as words, but as knowing. Sometimes it appears as intuition, sometimes as a sense of direction, sometimes as peace without reason. He realizes that this field, the calm beneath thought, is the true source of wealth. Ideas are born there, timing emerges there, intuition blossoms there, the greatest business decisions, the finest creative leaps, the boldest inventions, all arise from men and women who have learned to quiet the noise long enough to hear the whisper. He begins to notice something else. Silence improves not only thought but action. Throughout the day, he feels less reactive. When someone criticizes him, he listens without defense. When plans change, he adjusts without panic. He is learning what Hill meant by self-control as strength. The one who governs thought governs circumstance. By the fifth morning, he looks forward to the ritual. What began as discipline has become desire. Each session leaves him more centered, more creative, more magnetic. Ideas that once felt forced now flow easily. It is as if the universe had been waiting for him to quiet down long enough to deliver them. He thinks about the metaphor of wealth. People imagine wealth as accumulation of things, followers, numbers, but the truest wealth is clarity. A calm mind spends energy wisely. A scattered mind spends it wastefully. Every time he returns to silence, he deposits energy into the account of awareness. One afternoon, he sits in a cafe and observes the people around him. Almost everyone is looking down, scrolling, typing, consuming endless data. No one is actually here. He feels compassion rather than superiority. He sees himself in them, the old self, addicted to distraction, mistaking stimulation for significance. The tragedy of the modern age is not lack of information, but the loss of inner stillness to process it. He decides he will guard his silence as sacred property. Just as one protects physical wealth, he will protect mental space. No message is urgent enough to justify confusion. No notification is valuable enough to interrupt awareness. By the sixth day, something extraordinary happens. During his morning stillness, a new idea flashes into his mind. Simple yet brilliant, a solution to a problem that had frustrated him for months. It arrives not as a struggle, but as a gift, perfectly formed. He feels a surge of gratitude and almost laughs aloud. This, he thinks, is proof. The mind, once cleared, becomes a receiver of divine intelligence. Inspiration is not random, it's reception. He remembers another Hill principle, autosuggestion. Hill taught that you could program your subconscious with affirmations, but he also warned that suggestion cannot take root in a noisy mind. It's like trying to plant seeds in the middle of a storm. Silence, therefore, is not opposite of action. It is preparation for command. Once the interference is silenced, the suggestion becomes law. That evening, he writes again, "You cannot program the mind while it's noisy. You must first silence the interference, then speak your command." He reads the sentence aloud until it feels carved into his consciousness. The next morning, after his 5 minutes of stillness, he adds a short affirmation. "My mind is clear, my signal is strong, my vision is pure." It feels natural, powerful, and true, because it comes from clarity, not desperation. By the end of the week, the change is unmistakable. His face appears calmer in the mirror, his voice sounds steadier, even his posture carries quiet confidence. The static still visits, but it no longer rules him. Thoughts come and go like clouds across sky. The sky remains untouched. He understands now that mastering the mind is not about fighting thoughts, but about freeing them. Each thought released is a piece of energy reclaimed. The more space inside, the greater his capacity to create. He thinks again of wealth. What is a wealthy mind? It's a mind that spends its focus only where it yields return. It invests attention in creativity, gratitude, and purpose, not gossip, fear, or comparison. Silence reveals the difference. He closes his eyes once more, feeling gratitude for this simple, powerful discovery. Beneath the noise of human thought lies a steady current. peaceful, intelligent, unchanging. That current is not outside of him, it is him. Every time he enters it, he reconnects with the universal source of Power Hill called infinite intelligence. He realizes that clarity is wealth because clarity is access. Access to ideas, to timing, to intuition, to strength. When the static clears, life flows. He whispers softly to himself, I am no longer fighting my thoughts. I am directing them. Those words feel final, like the closing of a chapter in the mind's evolution. The city outside still hums, the phone still waits, the world still spins in its endless chase, but within this man something irreversible has occurred. He has learned to break the inner static, to transform noise into wisdom, confusion into calm, reaction into creation. He smiles faintly, knowing that the same calm intelligence that guides his breath will guide his destiny. The static will return at times, but now he knows the cure. Silence will always be there, waiting to tune him back to truth. The hour ends, he rises, lighter yet stronger, and steps into the day, not as a man trying to keep up with the world, but as one who has remembered how to command it. Dawn begins to bleed into the dark. A faint gold ribbon cuts through the horizon, and the city, still half asleep, exhales. The man sits again in the small square of stillness he has claimed as his inner temple. The silence feels different now, not hollow, not heavy, but alive. There is a hum in the air, like the gentle vibration of a string that has just been tuned. He closes his eyes and listens, not to the city, not to the echo of traffic, or the distant footsteps, but to something beneath those sounds. In the hush between breaths he senses presence, a subtle pulse of awareness that has no language yet speaks volumes. When the noise dissolves, another sound emerges, the inner voice. Not the chatter that argues and analyzes, not the endless rehearsal of worries or desires, but a deeper current of knowing. It does not speak in full sentences. It offers impressions, directions, single words that feel charged with certainty. Wait. Go, forgive, begin. He recognizes it immediately. This voice has always been there, whispering through intuition, tugging through instinct, but it was buried under layers of noise, ignored because it did not shout. The modern world rewards volume, not wisdom. Only when he quieted his thoughts did he rediscover what had never been lost. This voice, he senses, is ancient. It remembers his purpose even when he forgets it. It carries the memory of what he came here to build and who he came here to become. It is the silent witness that observed every victory and every mistake without judgment. It never accuses, it simply guides. He recalls Napoleon Hill's term for it, infinite intelligence, the invisible bridge between the conscious mind and the universal law that governs all creation. It is not mystical, it is mental order, the alignment of intention with principle. Just as electricity flows through a wire only when the circuit is complete, ideas and opportunities flow through a mind only when it is connected to this intelligence. The man smiles slightly. For years he sought signs in coincidences and omens, as if destiny were written outside himself. But now he understands that life's true compass lies within. When you listen to this inner voice, decisions become effortless. You stop begging for clarity, you become clarity. He breathes deeply, feeling the quiet expand. Thoughts still arise, plans, memories, trivial reminders, but they drift like clouds across a stable sky. Beneath them, a single awareness remains unmoved. That awareness is the voice. It doesn't push, it invites. He thinks about how the greatest minds in history operated from this place of calm conviction. Edison, who waited patiently for inspiration to reveal its form. Ford, who trusted ideas that seemed impossible to others. Hill himself, who wrote that the subconscious mind acts immediately upon the orders given it by the conscious mind. Those orders, he realizes, are clearest when delivered from faith, not fear. He senses that faith now. It is not excitement, it is certainty, a quiet knowing that when he moves from this stillness, each step will land exactly where it should. This is the paradox of wealth. You do not chase it, you tune into it. The mind aligned with infinite intelligence doesn't grasp it, magnetizes. He whispers to himself the affirmation Hill would have loved: I am guided by calm intelligence. I hear my higher mind clearly. He repeats it slowly, synchronizing each phrase with breath. At first it feels mechanical, but soon the rhythm takes over. The words begin to breathe him. His heartbeat joins the cadence. A warmth spreads through his chest, steady and deliberate. This, he realizes, is not meditation. It is calibration. He is tuning his entire nervous system to the frequency of wisdom. When the mind, the breath, and the belief move as one, the universe responds as if recognizing its own pattern. He sits longer than planned. Time loses shape. In that timelessness, he senses ideas forming, not thoughts he forces, but images that rise naturally, like bubbles from deep water, one image of a project long postponed, another of a conversation he must initiate. Each feels precise, as if handed to him by intelligence itself. He opens his eyes, and the room glows softly with dawn light. Everything seems sharper: the grain of the wood floor, the dust dancing in the sunbeam, the faint hum of life beginning outside. Yet what feels most alive is his own awareness. He understands now that guidance is never absent, it is only drowned. The universe is always speaking in subtle nudges, coincidences, impulses. To the untrained ear, it sounds like silence. To the tuned mind, it sounds like instruction. He recalls a metaphor Hill used: the radio station of the infinite. You cannot demand the broadcast. You must adjust your dial until reception clears. Most people keep twisting the knob, impatient, never waiting long enough for the signal to stabilize. Wealth, too, is a frequency: steady, confident, generous. When you hold that vibration long enough, results appear naturally. He writes in his journal, "My ideas are doors, my faith is the key." The words strike him with force. Ideas are not random, they are invitations. Each carries potential reality within it, waiting for faith to unlock it. Faith is not blind belief. It is emotional alignment with possibility. When thought and feeling agree, creation begins. He thinks about the last time he ignored his inner voice, the project he abandoned because logic said it was risky. Months later, someone else launched the same idea and succeeded. The pain of that memory had once felt like failure, but now he sees it as proof. The voice had spoken, he had dismissed it. The cost of ignoring intuition is always greater than the risk of following it. Now he vows to listen, not superstitiously, not recklessly, but faithfully. He will weigh logic against intuition, but intuition will always have the final word, because logic sees what is, intuition sees what can be. As he reflects, a subtle confidence begins to rise, a confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists, quiet and sure. He senses that every human being has this same access, but few develop the patience to hear it. We are trained to react faster, decide quicker, respond immediately, but the great decisions of life are born not from haste, but from harmony. He studies the feeling. How can he describe this inner voice? It feels like the sound before sound, the awareness that notices everything without needing to interfere. It feels like standing at the center of a calm sea while waves crash somewhere far away. The body may sit still, but the soul feels vast, connected to something measureless. He realizes that this connection is the real definition of spirituality, not rituals or beliefs, but awareness of the intelligence that moves through all things. Hill's infinite intelligence is not some external deity granting favors. It is the logical structure of the universe responding to consciousness. Thought is its language, faith is its electricity. He repeats softly, "I hear my higher mind clearly." Each time he says it, he feels a gentle surge of power, like plugging into a current. The affirmation becomes truth through repetition. Autosuggestion is not self, hypnosis, it is self-alignment. The more the conscious mind impresses certainty upon the subconscious, the faster reality mirrors it. He begins to notice that even his heartbeat seems to echo the phrase. The body, too, learns to listen. Cells align with conviction. Breath carries belief. The distinction between inner and outer starts to blur. He stands and walks to the window. The sun has risen fully now, flooding the streets with gold. The same city that looked chaotic last night now appears orderly, almost symphonic. Cars move in rhythm, people step with purpose. It's as if nothing outside changed, only his perception adjusted. He whispers, "When I am aligned, the world aligns with me." That single sentence encapsulates every teaching he's studied. The law of correspondence, the principle of vibration, Hill's definiteness of purpose, all merge here. The external world is an echo chamber of the internal state. Change the inner tone, and the outer sound reorganizes automatically. He laughs quietly, remembering how often he once begged for signs, checking numbers, waiting for miracles. The irony now is clear. When you're aligned, life itself becomes the sign. The phone rings with opportunity at perfect timing. The right person crosses your path without effort. You receive what you used to chase. This understanding brings a peace so deep it feels sacred. He realizes that wealth, success, and influence are not privileges granted to a few. They are natural consequences of alignment with law. The universe is impartial. It gives according to vibration. Those who listen to the voice beneath thought synchronize with its order and inevitably prosper. He sits once more, closing his eyes in gratitude, gratitude not for outcomes, but for awareness itself. To hear the inner voice is to rediscover partnership with creation. You are never alone in your efforts. You are co-creating with intelligence. He reflects on how many decisions in his life had been made from fear, fear of loss, rejection, scarcity. Each fear-based choice had multiplied more of its kind, but now every decision will come from calm knowing. Calm decisions compound peace, just as fearful ones compound chaos. He sees the pattern clearly. Silence dissolves static. Stillness reveals the voice. The voice provides direction. Direction creates movement. Movement backed by faith becomes wealth. He feels complete. No fireworks, no euphoria, just equilibrium. This, he thinks, must be the true definition of confidence, the quiet certainty that you are guided. Outside, the day is in full bloom. The man straightens his desk, prepares for work, but he does so differently now. Each action feels deliberate, infused with invisible grace. He knows that throughout the day the voice will continue to speak, not always in words, sometimes through timing, through ease, through subtle discomfort when something isn't right. His only job is to keep the channel clear. He writes one final line in his journal before leaving the room. The universe speaks in whispers. I have finally learned to listen. He closes the book gently. The hum of the morning fills the air again. Cars, footsteps, voices. But it no longer feels intrusive. The noise of the world has become background to a deeper melody. The voice beneath thought continues to sing, steady and strong, guiding him toward the next chapter of creation. The first sunlight enters the room, quiet and unhurried, painting gold across his face. He stands, stretches, and smiles, not because anything outside has changed, but because something inside has become unshakable. The silence he practiced has deepened into structure. The calm he discovered has matured into control. This is not the stillness of sleep or idleness. It is the stillness of command, a stillness that holds energy like a coiled spring, poised, powerful, deliberate. True stillness is not the absence of movement. It is movement under control. It is the ability to walk through chaos without letting it touch your peace. It is the discipline to hear the world's noise and decide, consciously, not to answer. In that choice lies mastery. He looks inward, observing his own thoughts rise and fall like slow tides. They still come, but they no longer pull him. Each thought appears, flashes its emotion, then fades. None linger without permission. The mind, once his master, has become his instrument. He remembers the countless mornings when he awoke already anxious, checking messages, racing to meet demands, beginning the day from reaction instead of direction. The difference now is profound. He is not driven by the day, he directs it. His energy feels organized, his intention feels sovereign. Napoleon Hill's words echo in his memory: "You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, because you control the thoughts you choose to think." He repeats it softly, letting each syllable settle like a stone in water. To command the mind is to command reality itself. The outside world is only the shadow of inner order. When the shadow flickers, fix the light, not the shape. He breathes deeply, feeling each inhale gather strength, each exhale release resistance. This rhythm is no longer just breathing, it's leadership. To lead oneself is to lead energy. He understands now that control is not force. Control is focus. Force exhausts, focus empowers. When you force circumstances, you resist natural law. When you focus thought, you align with it. Every great leader of destiny, industrialist, inventor, thinker, has known this truth. They did not conquer their environment, they conquered their vibration. Hill called it the law of attraction before the phrase became diluted. He knew that a calm, focused mind bends reality without strain. He thinks of wealth again, but now the word feels different. Wealth is not money, wealth is influence, the ability to impress your order upon chaos. Money is a byproduct of that influence, the echo of inner command. To chase the echo without forming the sound is foolish. He smiles at the simplicity of it. The rich are not powerful because of what they possess. They are powerful because of what they can direct. Their money follows their energy follows their thought follows their stillness. He looks around the quiet room. Nothing moves, yet everything feels alive. The stillness vibrates with potential. He senses that at any moment an idea could appear, an insight, an opportunity, and he would recognize it instantly. That readiness is wealth. Stillness sharpens perception. When the surface of water is calm, it reflects perfectly. When the mind is still, it reflects truth without distortion. He realizes that most people react to reflections of their own turbulence. They see in others only what they refuse to master in themselves. They confuse stillness with suppression, but suppression is fear in disguise. True stillness is fearless awareness. It allows every emotion to arise, yet grants none dominion. He considers the word command. In its truest form, command is not dominance over others but harmony within oneself. To command the mind is to harmonize thought and feeling, reason and faith, will and surrender. When those elements unite, the soul becomes magnetic. He whispers inwardly, "My mind is disciplined, my emotions serve my vision, my energy obeys my will." As he says this, he feels something subtle yet immense, a quiet authority, a sense that his very presence has weight. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. Hill wrote often about the necessity of definiteness of purpose. Now the man understands why. A mind without direction is like wind without form. It moves, but it accomplishes nothing. Stillness without purpose is stagnation. But when purpose flows through stillness, it becomes creation. He begins to trace the arc of his progress over the past hour. His thoughts have gone from scattered to silent, from restless to receptive, from distracted to directed. He no longer wrestles with the mind, he steers it. This is mental command, the ability to choose thoughts deliberately, hold them calmly, and release them without attachment. The world outside will soon test this calm, but he no longer fears the test. Challenges will come not to break him but to measure him, to reveal how deeply the stillness has rooted. True mastery is tested in motion, not meditation. Yet he knows something crucial. Command is not maintained by willpower alone. It must be refreshed through ritual, through daily moments of intentional quiet. Just as a warrior sharpens his blade before battle, the thinker must sharpen his awareness before decision. 5 minutes of stillness each morning is not luxury, it is maintenance. He reflects on how the untrained mind wastes energy. A single doubt repeated 100 times consumes more power than an hour of physical work. Anxiety is expensive. Confusion is debt. Every negative emotion costs focus, and focus is the currency of creation. He has stopped paying that tax. His inner economy is balanced now. Every thought he spends produces return. He writes mentally what he has learned. Stillness is not escape, it is economy. It conserves energy and channels it toward intention. He senses that his entire nervous system has begun to reorganize around this truth. The muscles in his face relax, his breath deepens, his pulse steadies, the body follows the mind's leadership. This is the secret Hill hinted at when he spoke of the master mind. Most interpret it as a group of aligned thinkers, but here he sees another layer. The master mind is one's own unified system. Conscious, subconscious, and body working together as a single intelligence. To achieve that harmony, thought must lead, emotion must obey, action must execute. When thought is silent and steady, emotion calms, and action becomes precise. No wasted effort, no inner conflict, only direction. He imagines the mind as a ship. Before, waves of circumstance tossed it aimlessly. Now the rudder holds steady. The winds still blow, but they no longer determine the course. The captain stands unmoved, guiding through unseen stars. This metaphor comforts him deeply. The world, with all its noise, will remain noisy, but he has found navigation. He no longer depends on calm seas to feel peace. His peace travels with him. He repeats softly, "Peace is not found, it is carried." That realization alone could rewrite his entire life. For if peace is carried, then no situation, no person, no event can take it away. External chaos may rage, but within him the waters remain smooth. And from those calm waters every great creation will rise. He feels immense gratitude, not for success already achieved, but for the ability to create it consciously. Gratitude itself is another form of stillness. It halts the restless hunger of desire and turns it into appreciation. A grateful mind commands life gently but effectively, as one commands an instrument rather than a slave. He wonders how many people live their entire lives without experiencing this state even once, this inner equilibrium that feels like standing at the center of a spinning world, untouched by its motion. Most are prisoners of thought, serving their fears. Few ever realize they can be the warden and the key. He vows never to return to that prison. The door is open now, and freedom tastes too pure to forget. He understands why every spiritual text, every philosophy, every law of success begins with the same instruction. Be still and know. Before knowledge comes stillness. Before wisdom, silence. Before wealth, control. He thinks of Hill again, the man who spent decades studying the world's most successful people, searching for their common secret. In the end, Hill found that every law of success pointed back to a single command: master your mind. The rest follows automatically. The man feels that truth resonating through him now. The mastery is not abstract, it's physical. He can feel it in his bones, in the calm steadiness behind his heartbeat. He knows that in the coming days, temptation will try to steal this commergent problems, unexpected delays, the pull of emotion. But now he has a formula: awareness first, reaction second. Every time he remembers awareness, he reclaims command. He imagines himself standing in the center of life's storms, the wind howling, the world shaking, yet inside him a light remains unmoved. That light is not fragile. It is not dependent on quiet environments or ideal conditions. It is a command post. silent, sovereign, absolute. This, he realizes, is the first true wealth principle. Before commanding money, one must command the mind. Money flows where energy flows, and energy follows attention. If attention wavers, fortune scatters. If attention steadies, fortune consolidates. He smiles at the logic of it. The universe rewards order, disorder repels it. A still mind is ordered energy, and ordered energy is irresistible. He lifts his gaze to the sunlight spilling through the window. The light has not changed, only his perception of it has, it seems, brighter because his awareness is clearer. Every ray feels like a reminder, illumination follows stillness. He whispers a final affirmation, "My mind is my kingdom, I rule it with calm authority." The words settle deep, they are not prideful, they are sacred. To rule the mind is to serve life faithfully. He knows the hour is ending. He feels complete. The silence within him no longer feels fragile. It feels structural, like the foundation of a temple. The noise of the world can strike against it, but it will not shake. He reflects once more on the progression, from scattered to silent, from restless to receptive, from distracted to directed. That journey, though inward, is the hardest a man can take. It is the victory unseen by others, but felt by all who meet him. For a man who commands his mind does not need to announce his power. It radiates quietly, shaping events, influencing outcomes, turning unseen laws in his favor. He stands still for a moment longer, letting gratitude wash through him. Then he breathes, deeply and deliberately, the breath of one who no longer struggles for control, because control has become nature. Morning light floods the room like revelation. The man sits before an open journal, the pages blank, yet pulsing with potential. Outside, the city awakens. Buses sigh, footsteps hurry, laughter drifts through thin walls. But inside, time slows to a quiet pulse. He holds his pen as if it were a wand capable of shaping worlds, for in truth it is. Every great creation begins in the invisible. Before a cathedral lifts its spires, it exists in the silence of a single idea. Before a fortune manifests in gold or paper, it resides as a precise image in a disciplined mind. The seen is only the echo of the unseen, the visible, the obedient child of vision. He studies the empty page. Most people fear such emptiness because it confronts them with responsibility. A blank page says, "What will you command?" He feels that challenge now. This is the blueprint stage, where clarity replaces confusion, where wish becomes will. He remembers how easily the world speaks in fog. I want more money, I want happiness, I want success. But the universe does not respond to blur. It translates specificity into reality. Ambiguity is static. Precision is power. He breathes, then begins to write, not hurriedly, but with authority. What do I truly want? Not from desperation, but from direction. The words come slowly at first, as if his hand must learn to obey his heart. He writes of freedom, not the kind that escapes responsibility, but the kind that chooses it. He describes work that excites him, relationships that refine him, mornings that start with purpose rather than panic. He lists numbers, clear, measurable, unapologetic. He sketches images, his workspace bathed in light, his movements calm yet decisive. Each line feels like carving destiny into stone. The more he writes, the clearer it becomes that wealth is not a goal, it is a design. Design requires structure, angles, measurements. Vague desire is the architecture of failure. Detailed imagination is the foundation of empire. Napoleon Hill's voice whispers through memory, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." He pauses to absorb that line. Conceive, to imagine with definition; believe, to accept it as inevitable; achieve, to let the physical world catch up to the mental picture. The sequence is eternal. The order cannot be reversed. You cannot achieve before you believe, and you cannot believe what you have not clearly conceived. He closes his eyes, the room dissolves. Inside, a new world forms. He sees himself walking through his day exactly as designed. He feels the air, crisp and clean, the scent of possibility in every breath. He hears his voice, confident, calm, persuasive. He notices the weight of success not as pressure but as presence. The vision is sensory, textured, alive. He realizes that imagination is not escape, it is rehearsal. Every vivid mental picture teaches the body how to behave when the opportunity arrives. The subconscious does not distinguish between memory and imagination. Feed it precision, and it prepares performance. He continues writing. Paragraph after paragraph flows, and with each word his energy rises. The fog that once surrounded his ambitions thins. He can now see direction where there was once only desire. The mind loves instruction. Give it detail and it obeys. Starve it of clarity and it panics. He reflects on how he once envied those who seemed lucky, people whose plans unfolded smoothly. Now he understands that luck is simply the alignment between blueprint and belief. Those who draw clearly, act calmly, and persist faithfully appear lucky only to those still living by guesswork. He writes a sentence in bold strokes. My goals are instructions to the universe, and the universe follows detail. He underlines it twice. Hill taught that definiteness of purpose is the first principle of success. The man sees why. Purpose crystallizes energy, indecision disperses it. Without a definite blueprint, the mind leaks power in every direction. With one, it channels everything toward a single aim. He pauses and studies what he has written. Pages now filled with numbers, visions, and sentences that vibrate with conviction. They are not wishes, they are coordinates. Each detail is a map point between imagination and manifestation. He senses the quiet excitement that follows alignment, the kind of excitement that is not frantic but steady, like an engine humming perfectly in tune. He whispers to himself, I am no longer a dreamer. I am an architect building in the unseen. A wave of gratitude washes through him. He thinks of how many years he spent waiting for clarity to appear before acting, never realizing that clarity appears because you act, because you dare to write. The act of defining desire is the act of claiming authority over your own destiny. He writes again, I design my future, I do not drift into it. The words resonate deeply. Drifting is the habit of the unconscious. Designing is the discipline of the awakened. He imagines the architect drawing plans for a skyscraper. Every line on the blueprint must be exact. A fraction of error on paper becomes a catastrophe in steel. So it is with life. Vague goals build crooked towers. Precise intention erects monuments. He looks at the morning sunlight and feels the same principle reflected there. Light travels straight because its source is singular. Scatter the beam and it loses power. Focus it and it cuts through metal. The mind works identically. Concentration is light disciplined by purpose. He realizes that most people misuse imagination. They spend it on worry instead of vision. Worry is just negative visualization, a rehearsal of failure. Faith, by contrast, is positive imagination sustained until the universe must agree. He smiles, understanding now that the law is neutral. It will build either structure or prison depending on the blueprint you hand it. He takes another breath and closes his eyes again. He allows himself to feel the emotions of his completed vision, not future emotions, but current. Gratitude as if it were already done, pride as if success were memory, that emotion fuses belief to image, feeling is cement, without it, the blueprint remains a sketch, with it, it becomes architecture. He whispers, it is real because I have seen it clearly. In that moment, the line between inner and outer reality blurs. He understands that manifestation is not magic, it's mathematics. Mental clarity multiplied by emotional conviction equals physical creation. It cannot fail because it follows law. He recalls another of Hill's insights, that thought mixed with faith becomes a living force. He feels that force moving now, invisible but undeniable, arranging unseen events, attracting resources, aligning circumstances. It is not something he controls directly. It is something he allows by precision of vision. He writes once more, slower now, savoring each word. I think with design, I act with faith, I receive with gratitude. He underlines the sentence and closes the journal gently. The act feels ceremonial, as though he has signed a contract with the universe. The details written on paper are only symbols. The true agreement has been engraved deeper, in the subconscious, in vibration, in belief. He sits back and watches the sunlight crawl across the floor. The city outside has fully awakened now. Cars move, people talk, doors open, yet he feels untouched by the rush. He knows exactly where he is going. That certainty is wealth. Most chase money to feel secure. He builds security through clarity. He reflects, when you know what you want, resistance loses power. Confusion is the enemy of courage. A defined purpose is immune to distraction. It filters every decision instantly. Does this move me closer or farther from my design? The answer decides the action. Simplicity returns. He understands now that the blueprint is not rigid. It is alive. Like an architect adjusting for new terrain, he can refine the plan as insight grows. Clarity is not confinement. It is creative focus. The more precise his vision, the more flexible his execution can be, because he always knows the destination. He remembers Hill describing imagination as the workshop of the mind. The phrase strikes deeper meaning now. A workshop is not a place of fantasy, it is a place of construction. Tools, plans, discipline, all belong there. So must imagination be treated, with reverence and responsibility. He looks at his journal again and realizes that this small act writing has shifted his entire state of being. He is no longer waiting for opportunity. He is collaborating with law. He feels the same calm authority he felt in stillness, now channeled into direction. He whispers quietly, "My imagination is my greatest asset. It produces wealth before the world can count it." The sentence feels final, yet endless. He senses this is how the great builders of history thought. Carnegie envisioning industries before they existed, Edison holding inventions in his mind before copper wires carried light. They did not predict the future, they drafted it. He feels awe, not arrogance, in realizing he possesses the same tool, imagination guided by faith. That realization humbles him. He understands that to misuse imagination, to fill it with fear, envy, or resentment, is to vandalize the blueprint of destiny. He vows to keep his design clean, free from emotional graffiti. He breathes again, long and deep. The air feels different, charged, cooperative. He knows this feeling will not last by accident. It must be maintained by practice. Each morning he will revisit his blueprint, refining it, strengthening it, until thought and reality are indistinguishable. He writes one last line before closing the book completely. Clarity is my currency, precision is my prayer. Then he sets down the pen. The pages rest, but his vision does not. It moves, alive and obedient, through the unseen corridors of cause, seeking its expression in time and space. He knows this as surely as he knows his own breath. The second hour ends not in fantasy but in design. He is no longer a dreamer waiting for life to decide his fate. He is an architect shaping invisible blueprints that the physical world must eventually mirror. Outside, the city hums with its usual haste, but within his mind structure reigns. The blueprint is drawn. The foundation of wealth has shifted from chance to choice, from hope to clarity, from noise to law. He closes his eyes once more, and the final thought rises quietly like dawn itself. When desire takes form in imagination, creation has already begun. The man steps out into morning light. The air holds the brightness of renewal. The same streets stretch before him, the same buildings rise, the same faces hurry past, yet everything looks changed. Nothing external has shifted, the change is in his perception. He sees through a new lens, one polished by imagination. The sunlight flashes across glass towers like mirrors of potential. Where yesterday he saw routine, today he sees rehearsal, a world quietly arranging itself to match the pictures forming in his mind. This is vision, the capacity to hold in consciousness what has not yet materialized, and to regard it with the same certainty as what the eyes already behold. Vision is the architect's privilege. It is the ability to look at a barren lot and see a mansion, to look at failure and see foundation, to look at rejection and perceive redirection. It is the refusal to take appearances as final. The visionary interprets reality not as it is, but as it is becoming. He remembers Hill's teaching that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Conceiving is an act of seeing. Believing is the act of continuing to see until the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. He walks slowly, absorbing details. The hum of engines, the rhythm of footsteps, the scent of bakeries opening their doors, all feel like the background score to a film he's directing. For the first time, he feels that creation is not confined to the artist or the inventor. Every mind is an artist painting tomorrow with today's images. He realizes that the wealthy are not richer because of possessions. They are richer because of perception. They train their inner eye to notice opportunity where others notice risk. They see openings in obstacles, patterns in chaos, order in delay. Their wealth is a byproduct of foresight. They understand that the outer world always lags behind the inner one. He pauses by a shop window, catching his reflection. Even his posture feels different, not proud, but purposeful. He senses that his inner pictures have begun shaping the body itself. The subconscious, he recalls, cannot distinguish between real and vividly imagined experience. To it, every vision rehearsed becomes memory, every memory repeated becomes identity, and identity creates behavior. He breathes deeply, letting the truth settle. Every clear image is a seed planted in time. Most people plant weeds, worries, fears, images of loss, and wonder why their garden yields anxiety. The wise plant intention. They revisit it daily until roots of conviction anchor it into the subconscious soil. He decides to make this vision practice his ritual. 5 minutes before sleep, 5 minutes upon waking, the two gateways of the mind, when the border between conscious and subconscious stands open. In those moments, he will see himself executing his goals effortlessly, speaking with calm power, moving through his days with certainty. He will not wish, he will witness. He will not hope, he will rehearse. Visualization, he understands, is not daydreaming. It is deliberate mental rehearsal. Every athlete, artist, and entrepreneur who has mastered performance uses this principle instinctively. Repetition creates readiness. Readiness invites opportunity. The universe favors those who have already seen themselves succeed. He recalls Hill's phrase, the theater of the mind. It feels literal now. His imagination is a private cinema projecting the future. Each morning and night he is both director and actor, staging the life he is destined to live. The subconscious is the faithful audience that believes every scene. What it believes, it begins to build. He smiles at the elegance of the law. The subconscious cannot tell imagination from experience. Therefore, imagination is experience to it. Give it scenes of mastery, and it will generate circumstances to match. Give it scenes of failure, and it will deliver evidence of defeat. The choice, then, is artistic responsibility. What movie will I play? He recalls the years he lived without this awareness, years of reacting to life instead of designing it. He had thought vision was luxury, that only dreamers indulged in fantasy. Now he sees that all practical success is born of disciplined fantasy. The world one day calls innovation. was yesterday someone's inner picture. He feels gratitude for this rediscovered power. He realizes that seeing before becoming is not arrogance, it is obedience to universal law. Everything that exists was first visualized by consciousness. The chair beneath him, the tower across the street, even the device in his pocket, all began as unseen geometry in a mind refusing to doubt itself. He pauses again, noticing how vision alters emotion. Fear and impatience dissolve when the mind sees a vivid destination. Doubt feeds on vagueness. Certainty feeds on imagery. A clear mental picture acts like gravity, pulling behavior into alignment. Each day's actions begin to arrange themselves unconsciously toward the image held most often. He thinks of Hill's emphasis on autosuggestion, the repetition of desire until the subconscious accepts it as fact. Visualization is autosuggestion made visual. Words speak to reason. Pictures speak to the subconscious. And pictures repeated with emotion become commands. He closes his eyes for a moment, standing still among moving crowds. Inwardly he watches a scene, himself speaking confidently before an audience, his words landing with impact, his voice steady. The image feels tangible. He can sense the room's warmth, hear the rhythm of his own tone. The sensation stirs genuine pride. When he opens his eyes, that confidence remains. The rehearsal has already influenced reality. He realizes now that every deliberate visualization shortens the time between idea and manifestation. The more precise the picture, the less resistance between thought and form. Life becomes response rather than struggle. He writes later that day in his journal, "Seeing is creation in rehearsal. Each image rehearsed faithfully must one day demand performance." He reflects on how often people beg for evidence before believing, never grasping that evidence is the final stage, not the first. The universe follows the same order in all creation: image, faith, form. Skipping the first two ensures perpetual waiting. He vows never again to demand proof before picturing. From now on, he will picture until proof appears. Evening arrives, and he honors his new ritual. 5 minutes before sleep, he sits quietly, breathing slowly. The body relaxes, the mind begins to drift between worlds. In that half-dream state, he builds another film, his ideal morning, his purposeful movements, his grateful heart. He imagines sunlight through his window, the same sunlight that will greet him hours from now. By previewing it, he programs it. He recalls scientific studies he once read. Though Hill lived before such data, modern research now confirms his truths. Neurons fire identically whether one performs an act or merely visualizes it. The brain practices reality before the body lives it. What Hill intuited as faith, psychology now measures as neuroplasticity. The law has always been there, language simply evolves. He drifts toward sleep with that understanding. His final thought before dreaming, "I am designing tomorrow while others are drifting into it." Morning returns, and with it a sense of déjà vu. The sunlight falls exactly as he pictured it. The same calm he rehearsed now greets him effortlessly. What was visualization last night is embodiment today. He smiles, knowing this is not coincidence, it is confirmation. Throughout the day, he notices small alignments, people responding differently, ideas surfacing at perfect timing, his own posture conveying quiet assurance. The movie has begun to play itself into the world. He contemplates the mechanics behind this miracle. The subconscious, once programmed by repetition, becomes the autopilot of destiny. It notices opportunities the conscious mind overlooks. It whispers intuition at the right moment. It rearranges attention toward fulfillment. The conscious mind's duty is vision. The subconscious mind's duty is execution. When they cooperate, destiny accelerates. He writes another insight in his journal: "The world is delayed imagination. Whatever I see vividly now will one day call itself experience." He looks around the bustling cafe where he writes and feels a sense of intimacy with everything. Every table, cup, and lamp once lived in someone's mind. Every success story began as mental theater. Creation is not a privilege of the chosen. It is the nature of being human. He whispers softly, if imagination builds worlds, then to imagine small is to sin against potential. The phrase startles him. It feels larger than thought, as though spoken through him rather than by him. He understands that infinite intelligence often communicates this way, through inspired sentences that feel borrowed from a higher source. When the mind is quiet, wisdom enters unannounced. He sits back and smiles, realizing that the more he practices visualization, the easier inspiration flows. The mind becomes like a well-tuned lens, capturing signals from the field of possibility. The clearer the lens, the stronger the image. As the day ends, he reflects on how far he has come from the chaos of earlier weeks. Once, his life felt accidental. Now it feels authored. The difference lies not in circumstance, but in sight. Seeing before becoming transforms a wanderer into a designer, a reactor into a creator. He remembers Hill's assertion that the imagination is literally the workshop wherein all plans are created. To neglect that workshop is to abandon power. To enter it daily is to cooperate with the laws that shape galaxies. He closes his journal, but his mind continues to visualize effortlessly. Every sound, every interaction becomes raw material for new imagery. He no longer divides imagination from reality. They are continuous. The outer world is simply slower clay. Before sleep that night, he whispers his new creed: I see clearly, I feel deeply, I believe completely. Therefore, I become inevitably. The sentence settles like a seal upon the blueprint of his mind. He knows now that every act of seeing is an act of becoming. Vision is not a preview of life, it is life in incubation. As his eyes close, the city outside continues its restless motion, but within him order reigns. The theater of the mind plays quietly, scenes unfolding in perfect clarity, each one a promise of tomorrow. And he understands at last that faith is not waiting for the unseen. It is watching it unfold behind closed eyes. Afternoon sunlight filters through the blinds, slicing the room into quiet bars of gold. Dust motes drift like tiny planets caught in orbit. The man sits once more, upright but at ease, eyes open yet inwardly focused. He is not daydreaming, he is directing. The room is silent, but inside his mind a theater awakens. He has come to understand that imagination is not escape, it is authorship. Within the theater of consciousness, he is both director and actor, cinematographer and critic. Every thought forms a frame. Every emotion lays down a soundtrack. The sequences he repeats become the documentary of his existence. For years, without realizing it, he has been screening the wrong film. Old reels loop endlessly, scenes of mischances, lines of self, doubt, tragedies replayed under the harsh lighting of memory. He has been a loyal audience to his own limitations. Then he wondered why life kept returning the same plot. Now he knows. The universe simply mirrors the movies we insist on showing it. He closes his eyes. The blank inner screen glows faintly, ready for a new script. He takes a slow breath and begins to project deliberately. Scene 1, he walks into a room filled with opportunity, heads turn, he feels calm authority radiating from him. His handshake is firm, his eyes steady, he speaks with clarity, his ideas land cleanly. Confidence is not forced, it is factual. Scene 2, doors that once seemed locked swing open. Emails arrive, meetings confirm, collaborations form. He doesn't chase, he attracts. Everything that matches his new vibration begins to orbit closer. Scene 3, gratitude saturates every moment. He moves through the day aware of blessing rather than burden. Even challenges shimmer with hidden value. He sees wealth not as future promise, but as present frequency. The movie runs in vivid color. He can hear the sounds, feel the temperature, sense the pulse of success. His heart responds as if it were happening now, and in a sense it is. The subconscious cannot distinguish imagination from experience. To it, rehearsal is reality. He recalls Napoleon Hill's truth: you become what you think about most of the time. The words are no longer motivational, they are mechanical. Thought repeated becomes belief, belief sustained becomes pattern, pattern hardened becomes circumstance. The mind does not argue, it obeys imagery. He realizes that every human being lives inside a private cinema. Some show thrillers of anxiety, others tragedies of regret, a few comedies of distraction. The ticket price is attention, and everyone pays it daily. What plays most often eventually spills off the screen and builds the environment. He decides to change genres. No more horror films of failure, no more gray documentaries of limitation. From this day forward he will produce only one series, My Wealth Reality. He smiles at the title. It feels sincere, not boastful. Reality begins as rehearsal. Destiny begins as dialogue written within. He watches carefully, editing as he goes. In one frame he notices hesitation creeping in. He rewinds and replaces it with certainty. In another, doubt flickers. He brightens the lighting of faith. Each adjustment feels tangible, as though cutting film on an invisible reel. The process is artistic but exact. He thinks about Hill's idea of definiteness of purpose. The film must have a clear storyline. Indecision is bad direction. It confuses the cast. When vision is precise, every element, people, timing, resources, knows its role. The subconscious becomes the production crew, working tirelessly to fulfill the script. He begins to feel the excitement of creation, the quiet thrill of a director watching the scene come alive exactly as imagined. For the first time, he understands that visualization is not fantasy, it is management. He is managing his internal cinema, choosing which scenes will be financed by energy and repeated until released as physical events. He remembers how, when he was younger, he rehearsed failure unconsciously. Before interviews he imagined rejection. Before opportunities he imagined loss. Each picture drew its matching experience. Life had been painfully faithful to his previews. Now he sees the justice in it. The law is impersonal, endlessly consistent. The reel you play most becomes the film that premieres. He writes in his journal later, "My imagination is a studio. What I produce inside, the universe distributes outside." The sentence feels so precise it could be engraved above the entrance of any creative hall. He leans back, eyes still closed. A faint smile plays across his lips. The mind, once a chaotic montage, now follows direction. Scenes flow smoothly. The inner light brightens until it feels more real than daylight. Emotion rises, steady warmth expanding in his chest. Emotion is electricity, it powers the projection. Without it, the picture fades. He thinks of actors who use method technique, living inside their roles until fiction becomes fact. This is the same law at work. The subconscious, once convinced, commands the body, and the body persuades the world. Soon the external must conform. He wonders how many people destroy their futures by poor cinematography, editing hope out, inserting fear, dimming light until nothing new can grow. The tragedy is not misfortune but misdirection. He vows that from now on he will watch his mind like a strict producer. No destructive scenes allowed, no reruns of regret, no dialogue of doubt. Only scripts that serve the vision. He sees himself months from now, living the movie he now rehearses. He senses the confidence, the flow of opportunities, the sense of alignment. Then he sees beyond success, peace. The truest wealth is not applause, it is inner order. He repeats Hill's principle in his own words: I am the screenwriter of experience. Thought writes, emotion directs, faith releases. The simplicity astounds him. He doesn't need permission or luck. He needs consistency. The subconscious learns through repetition. Every time he runs the film, he deepens the groove of belief. Eventually, the groove becomes the only channel through which energy can flow. He recalls how athletes visualize their perfect race hundreds of times before stepping onto the track. Their muscles memorize the image. When the gun fires, performance follows programming. The same happens in wealth, art, leadership, love. Whatever domain one chooses, the mental movie becomes the muscle memory of success. He sits in stillness, continuing the projection. The more he watches, the more emotion fuses with clarity. He sees not only results but reactions. How calmly he handles pressure, how graciously he receives abundance, how freely he shares it. He feels gratitude as though the scenes were already history. That gratitude seals the film. Gratitude says to the subconscious, it is finished. Minutes pass like seconds. When he opens his eyes, the sunlight has shifted. Shadows stretch across the room like closing curtains. He feels renewed, as if he has returned from a long but meaningful journey. The movie lingers, not as fantasy, but as memory. He rises and notices subtle changes in perception. The room appears sharper, the colors more vivid. The world feels slightly more malleable, as though waiting for direction. He realizes that life always was this way. He had simply never issued clear orders. He recalls a line from Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Any idea held in the mind, emphasized, feared, or revered, begins at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate physical form available. He whispers the words aloud. The law is impartial. Whether one worships a dream or worries a nightmare, both receive embodiment. Faith and fear are identical in mechanism, differing only in content. The wise choose their film deliberately. He takes his journal and writes again, I choose faith as my genre. The simplicity of that statement brings quiet joy. Faith, he realizes, is not blind optimism. It is the discipline of running the right movie until the world has to license it. He sits again and replays a shorter sequence, testing the power of brevity. In 20 seconds, he imagines shaking hands on a successful agreement. He feels the same confidence, hears the same laughter. When he opens his eyes, his pulse has changed, his posture taller. Proof enough. The body obeys imagination instantly. He thinks of the subconscious as a child that learns by mimicry. Show it pictures of failure, it imitates fragility. Show it pictures of victory, it imitates strength. The child believes everything it sees. Therefore, the adult must curate its education carefully. He makes a new commitment. Morning and night he will screen only constructive films. During the day, if negativity sneaks in, he will pause and rewrite the scene. This is how one edits destiny in real time. He realizes that success is not about luck or connections, but about continuity of image. Those who hold a vision longest win, not because the world favors them, but because the law fulfills persistence. Thought is cause, time is its servant. He remembers Hill's insistence that the imagination is the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world has ever known. The line no longer feels like exaggeration. It is literal. Every skyscraper, symphony, and social movement began as mental film before it appeared as matter. He lets that truth sink in until reverence replaces ambition. To imagine is to participate in creation itself. To picture a better world is to join its construction crew. He whispers a silent thank you to the unseen intelligence that allows humans this privilege. The day wanes into amber light. He feels no urgency to act immediately. He knows action will arise naturally from alignment. The movie written clearly enough becomes instinct. Instinct becomes motion. There will be no strain, only flow. He ends his session with one final affirmation. I am producing masterpieces of mind, and life is my screen. The sentence feels ceremonial. He stands, stretches, and looks once more at the streaks of light on the floor. They remind him of film strips, frames of sunlight carrying invisible stories. He smiles, knowing his own story is already in post. Production within the unseen. The hour closes softly. The room dims, but inside him the projector burns steady. He understands now that mastery is not about controlling circumstances, but about controlling cinema. The world will always project whatever real the mind provides. He gathers his journal, writes the final note of the day. I don't wait for proof. I produce it. Then, closing the book, he sits quietly, feeling that phrase settle into the body. The words have weight, not from effort, but from evidence. He has seen too much to doubt. The subconscious is already editing reality, scene by scene, to match the movie now on repeat. He whispers one last line into the silence. What I watch, I become. Therefore, I watch greatness. Outside, evening stretches long and golden. Inside, a new film continues to place. Eddy, luminous, unstoppable. Evening descends with measured grace. The light outside softens to amber, and shadows lengthen like unspoken thoughts. The man closes his journal. Its pages are full now, lines of intention, diagrams of destiny. A single candle burns beside it, the flame steady, unwavering. He exhales, feeling not fatigue but fulfillment, not pressure but power. The silence around him feels architectural, as if walls of calm have been built by his own awareness. He studies the flicker of the flame. It wavers, then steadies again, as though reminding him that focus may bend, but must not break. He realizes that the candle and the mind obey the same law. Give them still air, and they shine. Disturb them with wind, and they sputter. His task, then, is simple. Protect the inner flame from the storm of reaction. A hidden truth settles over him with clarity so deep it feels ancient. You are not a byproduct of circumstance. You are their designer. The world does not sculpt you. You sculpt the world. The power that shapes stars and seasons works through thought, and thought is yours to command. He looks again at his written vision. Precise, alive, confident. Every sentence feels structural, every phrase a foundation. He begins to see the parallel that has always existed between architecture and creation of life. The mind is the greatest construction site on earth. Every thought you allow is a brick. Every belief you hold is a beam. Every vision you sustain becomes architecture. Some minds build palaces, others build prisons. The difference lies only in design. He whispers inwardly, I am building consciously now. He imagines his mental blueprint as a rising structure, each idea a pillar, each affirmation a layer of stone, each act of faith a window admitting light. Architects never doubt their blueprints build. They do not stand before unfinished scaffolding and despair. They trust the design. Likewise, he must trust his vision even before it's visible. To question the plan halfway through is to collapse the structure in progress. Faith is the steel that holds imagination upright until form arrives. He breathes deeply, letting this awareness anchor. The scent of melting wax drifts through the air, carrying warmth into the room. His heart beats with a rhythm that feels both human and universal, the pulse of creation recognizing itself. He recalls how easily he once surrendered to external conditions, reacting to weather, opinions, economy, time. Each reaction was a surrender of authorship, but the moment he began designing from within, outer conditions started rearranging themselves with quiet obedience. The architect does not argue with materials, he instructs them. Reality is material, consciousness is design, he sits taller. The stillness inside him is not passive, it is commanding. He feels the weight of responsibility that comes with awareness. To know that thought builds reality is to hold infinite tools in one's hands. Every careless belief becomes scaffolding in the wrong place, every doubt a crack in the wall. Precision of mind is no longer luxury, it is law. He smiles faintly, remembering how Hill called this discipline definiteness of purpose. It is more than goal setting, it is the invisible signature of all great minds, the seal that tells the universe, build here. Without it, energy scatters. With it, every resource converges. He recalls Hill's observation that all achievements, all earned riches, have their beginning in an idea. The man now feels that truth bodily. He understands that riches are not received, they are remembered. Wealth is a mental structure rediscovered after years of building unconsciously. Every human is born rich in creative faculty. Poverty begins when imagination falls asleep. He closes his eyes and visualizes again his inner construction site. Workers of thought move with precision. Cranes of conviction lift beams of belief into place. The blueprint glows under the light of faith. He realizes that his only real task is supervision, to keep the mind orderly, to approve each idea before it enters construction. Negative emotion is an unqualified laborer. It builds chaos when left unsupervised. He thinks of how people often speak of falling apart. Now he understands structures collapse when architects abandon the site. The moment you stop designing, entropy takes over. The world will always build something around you. If you do not choose the plan, chance will. He opens his eyes, gaze steady on the flame. Alignment. This is the word that echoes through him now. When thoughts, emotions, and intentions operate as one, they mirror the intelligence that builds galaxies and governs atoms. Creation is not effortful when harmony exists. It is automatic. The universe does not strain to spin planets. It simply remains aligned. Likewise, the architect within must remain poised, balanced, consistent. He remembers moments in life when he acted from confusion, projects half started, dreams half believed, and how those structures inevitably crumbled. Confusion is crooked measurement. It guarantees instability. Now he measures thought by faith, not fear. Each line of intention must be straight before he allows it to become form. The candle burns lower, but the room feels brighter. Awareness itself is illumination. He senses the presence of something vast, the same intelligence Hill referred to as infinite mind, the universal architect behind all order. He feels connected to it not as servant, but as apprentice. His thoughts are blueprints drafted in that cosmic office. He reflects. Arrogance separates man from divinity, but alignment unites them. This work is not pride, it is partnership. When you create consciously, you do not compete with God, you cooperate. You allow the divine pattern to express through your particular design. True humility is the recognition that you are a conduit for perfection, not its source. He whispers a quiet affirmation, I design with the same intelligence that designed the stars. The statement humbles him more than it inflates him. It reminds him that his purpose is not domination, but participation. Each clear thought is an act of gratitude to the order that made clarity possible. He watches the flame dance again. Shadows rise and fall on the walls like silent spectators. In that gentle flicker he sees symbolism, the balance of movement and stability, the rhythm of creation. Even the flame must consume to illuminate. Likewise, he must burn away doubt to reveal vision. The ashes of uncertainty will feed the fire of purpose. He reflects on how every architect keeps two images in mind, the current site and the finished structure. Both must coexist, the awareness of what is and the faith in what will be. Too much focus on the present and progress halts. Too much obsession with the future and foundation weakens. Mastery lies in holding both with calm certainty. He writes quietly in his journal's margin, I see clearly what is, but I obey only what shall be. The act feels sacred, as if he's signing a contract with destiny. Outside, night deepens, streetlights flicker on one by one. He thinks of them as tiny confirmations, evidence that design governs even darkness, every lamp lit at its appointed hour, every system humming in rhythm. The universe is architecture in motion. His task is to mirror that precision in thought. He contemplates the structure of his own day, how each hour has become a beam of habit, each choice a supporting column. To live carelessly would be to build crookedly. To live deliberately is to engineer alignment. The smallest adjustments in attitude alter the entire skyline of experience. He realizes that great lives, like great buildings, require both vision and patience. The skyscraper does not rise in a day, yet each brick laid is progress complete in itself. Likewise, each disciplined thought, each act of faith, each calm decision is a brick placed correctly. Impatience is the architect's greatest enemy. It demands the top floor before the foundation has settled. He smiles softly. He will not rush construction. He will let time serve structure. Hill wrote that faith is the eternal elixir that gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. The man feels that elixir flowing through him now. Faith is not blind hope. It is blueprinted conviction. He stands and walks to the window. The city glows below like circuitry, each light a pulse of human intention, millions of minds building simultaneously. Most build unconsciously, a few consciously. The difference determines not morality but mastery. He chooses to be among the conscious architects. He whispers to the night, I no longer react to the design of others. I construct my own. The air feels alive with agreement. He imagines the vibrations leaving his lips as invisible drafts carried upward into the great workshop of infinite mind. There, unseen energies begin aligning, opportunities, encounters, inspirations, ready to descend into form. The architect never rushes the builders. He knows the materials are on their way. Returning to the desk, he looks once more at the candle. The flame is smaller now, but steadier than before. It mirrors his awareness, condensed, concentrated, indomitable. He realizes he does not need the world to believe in his design. Belief alone sustains architecture. The building will rise regardless of applause. He recalls Hill's counsel. Hold the picture of yourself long enough in your mind, and you will be drawn to it by the law of attraction. He repeats it aloud, slowly, each word a brick laid in the subconscious. The phrase no longer feels abstract. It is literal engineering. The law of attraction is gravitational architecture. The image held persistently in mind exerts magnetic pull on matter until both coincide. He closes his eyes and pictures the completed structure of his life, the environment, the freedom, the peace, the service to others. He holds it without strain, letting feeling replace effort. The longer he holds it, the more real it feels, until gratitude floods him like light filling empty rooms. Gratitude is the final inspection, the moment the architect steps back and says, "It is good." When he opens his eyes, tears of recognition blur his vision. Not tears of longing, but of memory. He knows he has not reached wealth. He has remembered it. The riches were never outside, only unrecognized within. Every resource, every possibility, every power waits inside consciousness like materials waiting for design. He feels profound peace. The candle's flame trembles once, then steadies into a perfect point. He understands the second hour is complete. The blueprint is finalized. Tomorrow's world will begin to mirror the movie and the plan drawn tonight. He leans forward, cups the candle gently, and whispers one final affirmation into the light. I am the architect within. My thoughts are design, my faith the foundation, my gratitude the crown. He blows softly. The flame extinguishes, but its glow lingers behind his eyelids. In that afterimage he sees the outline of a rising structure, his life taking form in the unseen, awaiting its unveiling in time. Outside, the city continues its hum. Inside, the architect rests certain that construction is already underway, morning again, Pale light stretches across the horizon, tinting glass towers with gold. The man stands on his balcony, breathing the cold, clean air. Below, the city stirs, cars sliding like silver streams, people crossing streets, voices rising with the day. He feels none of the old rush, none of the noise inside, only a deep, deliberate awareness of life moving perfectly on time. He whispers two quiet words that feel like a code unlocking the universe. Thank you. The sound is soft, but the vibration is immense. Gratitude, he realizes, is the universal amplifier. Whatever you appreciate expands, whatever you ignore decays. The law of increase does not respond to demand, it responds to appreciation. The universe is not a store that rewards complaints. It is a mirror that reflects emotional frequency. Where complaint exists, lack multiplies. Where gratitude reigns, abundance gathers. He leans on the railing, eyes following the light crawling up the sides of buildings. For years he chased more money, more proof, more validation, never noticing that desire without gratitude is disguised fear. Fear says, I don't yet have enough. Gratitude says, I already possess the seed of everything. The first shrinks, the second expands. The law of increase responds only to the latter. He remembers Hill's line, the habit of gratitude calls your mind into a state of expansion and faith. The words resound now with fresh meaning. Gratitude is not a courtesy, it is a magnetic realism. It declares, I see value, and the universe, hearing that declaration, sends more value to be seen. He smiles, thinking of how the untrained mind uses its creative power against itself. Most people chase wealth by criticizing lack. They rehearse complaints, speak of limitation, analyze shortages. In doing so, they broadcast the frequency of absence. The universe, faithful but impartial, multiplies that signal until reality matches belief. Yet at any moment, a simple shift, one sincere thank you reverses the current. He whispers again, more intentionally this time, thank you for breath, thank you for strength, thank you for awareness. The words feel like sparks reigniting circuits that had gone dim. He senses energy rise instantly, a lightness moving through the chest. Gratitude, he realizes, is stored power released. It turns what you have into fuel for more. He recalls the times he mistook gratitude for passivity, thinking it meant contentment without ambition. But now he understands true gratitude is not complacency, it is creative recognition. To appreciate a thing is to expand its blueprint in the mind. Energy follows focus. Whatever receives thankful attention grows stronger. He decides to make this practice structural, not sentimental. Every morning, before movement or speech, he will name 3 things that already work in his life. They may be simple: the lungs that breathe without reminder, the hands that create, the persistence that carried him through struggle. Each acknowledgement multiplies power. Each one signals to infinite intelligence. He is ready to steward more. He thinks of gardeners who bless their crops while planting. The words do not feed the soil, the vibration feeds the sower. When the mind enters gratitude, it synchronizes with growth itself. The law of increase is the law of faith disguised in appreciation. He remembers a passage from Think and Grow Rich. That faith is the head chemist of the mind, transforming ordinary thought into spiritual power. Gratitude, he realizes, is faith in motion, the emotional proof that you already believe in abundance. To say thank you is to say, I trust the process, and trust is the condition through which prosperity moves. He looks again at the skyline. Every building before him began as gratitude for possibility. Some architect once stood at a drawing board saying, I am thankful this vision can exist. Gratitude is the first permission slip of creation. He reflects on how often people sabotage themselves by ignoring what is working. The habit of noticing flaws blinds them to functioning grace. Yet the wealthy, the peaceful, the fulfilled, all share one trait: speed of recognition. They recognize value faster than others. Where the average person complains about the small apartment, they give thanks for shelter. Where others curse delay, they praise divine timing. Their gratitude accelerates increase because energy flows where appreciation goes. He closes his eyes and performs a quiet inventory. He thanks his mind for learning discipline. He thanks the setbacks that became teachers. He thanks even the moments of confusion that forced clarity to be born. With each acknowledgement, he feels his awareness widening. Gratitude expands perception until you begin to notice wealth in places poverty cannot see. He writes later in his journal, "The rich do not own more. They notice more." The line feels alive, as if written through him rather than by him. He understands now that spiritual awareness and financial increase are reflections of the same law. Attention determines abundance. A grateful mind converts everything into asset. He remembers how Hill warned against the poverty consciousness that infects even the educated. Poverty consciousness is not lack of money. It is habitual focus on absence. Gratitude is its cure. Every thank you replaces a thought of deficiency with one of sufficiency. Multiply that replacement daily, and entire paradigms shift. He decides to test the law consciously. All week, he will not seek new miracles. He will amplify existing ones. He will observe his health, his relationships, his progress, and name them blessings aloud. The experiment begins immediately. He looks at his hands. They have written, built, comforted. Thank you. He says softly. He touches his chest. Thank you. The simplicity feels almost sacred. He senses why ancient traditions placed gratitude at the center of prayer. It calibrates emotion to receptivity. He imagines two magnets, one labeled lack, one labeled thank. Both attract, but to different ends. The magnet of lack pulls delay, disappointment, and scarcity. The magnet of thank pulls opportunity, harmony, and increase. The difference lies only in direction. He recalls a line he once read but never understood until now: "What you bless, blesses you." The universe amplifies what you validate. Bless your progress and it doubles. Curse it and it retreats. Gratitude is therefore practical strategy, not poetic comfort. He remembers the early chapters of his transformation, when silence taught him control and vision taught him design. Gratitude, he realizes, is the binding mortar that holds those structures together. Without appreciation, even achievement crumbles under entitlement. With it, small beginnings become empires of energy. He smiles, thinking of Hill again. Hill had interviewed industrialists, inventors, leaders, all men and women who understood this subtle vibration. Their gratitude was not for possessions but for power, the power to think, to create, to serve. They revered that power, and reverence magnetized more. He whispers, "Thank you for awareness itself." The phrase feels infinite. Awareness is the soil of every other blessing. To be conscious of good is already to multiply it. He recalls a time when he measured success only by outcomes. Now he measures it by alignment. Gratitude is the indicator. When he can thank without reason, he knows he is synchronized with the law. In that frequency, life expands naturally, without struggle or striving. He gazes again at the moving cars below, each one a life, each life a set of thoughts attracting realities. Most are unaware of their creative broadcast. They think in complaints, feel in hurry, live in resistance. Yet all could change in a heartbeat with a single shift. Thank you. Those words alter vibration faster than any external achievement. He thinks about the connection between gratitude and generosity. A grateful person naturally gives. Giving is not loss. It is circulation. The law of increase depends on movement. Stagnant energy suffocates abundance. Circulated energy multiplies it. Gratitude opens the channel both ways, receiving and giving in one gesture. He writes again, gratitude is the engine of circulation, giving is its proof. The more he writes, the more he feels a subtle current forming around him, peace mixed with anticipation. Gratitude does not dull ambition, it refines it. It purifies desire of greed and leaves only purpose. In this state, wealth becomes contribution, not collection. He breathes deeply, whispering again the morning ritual he has designed: 3 things, always 3. The rule is simple yet potent. It creates momentum of awareness. By the third acknowledgement, emotion always shifts. Even on dark days, light leaks through the cracks. He tests it aloud now. Thank you for time to grow. Thank you for the mind that understands law. Thank you for the unseen forces arranging my good. Each line feels like turning a dial higher on an invisible amplifier. Energy intensifies, mood elevates, perception sharpens. The balcony, the city, even the sky seem brighter, though the light has not changed. The law of increase has answered instantly. He realizes something profound. Gratitude is evidence of faith. When you can thank for what you have not yet received, you prove belief. Faith unproven is theory. Gratitude is its demonstration. The universe responds to demonstrated belief, not verbal desire. He remembers Hill's insistence that the subconscious acts only upon emotionally charged thought. Gratitude is the highest charge available. It fuses love and certainty into one current. Every thought wrapped in gratitude travels faster, pierces deeper, creates sooner. He stands silently for a long time, feeling that current move through him. It is quiet yet absolute. He knows this is the frequency of increase, the invisible hum of expansion. To live here is to live in partnership with creation itself. He whispers a closing affirmation to seal the hour. I am thankful for all that is and all that is becoming. Therefore, increase is inevitable. The words vibrate softly through the morning air, dissolving into light. He senses that somewhere, in ways the mind cannot measure, matter has already begun to rearrange. Gratitude has issued its command. The architect within has spoken not in blueprints this time, but in blessing. He turns to go inside, but pauses once more to look at the city, the living proof of law in action. Every building stands because someone once appreciated the possibility of it. Every invention hums because someone once thanked the idea into existence. Appreciation precedes appearance. He smiles quietly. The second hour of mastery has ended. He understands now that wealth is not the accumulation of things, but the multiplication of awareness. Gratitude is that multiplier. The wealthy are not those who own the most. They are those who recognize value the fastest. That is the first secret of increase, and the last lesson of this hour. He whispers one final time, as if to the infinite itself, thank you. And some